And here he is, Stewart Dalby.
Good morning, everybody. We've got Energy Matters, and the story I've got to retell this morning is something like a carry-on film. Absolutely ridiculous. Anyway, let's start. Well, as we talked before, the energy supply now is controlled by a cartel of the big 6 energy companies who actually, like the Lloyd's Bank, they follow one another after the energy prices are set. Okay, so these cartels sort of set a certain tariff below the energy cap, and then the other ones follow the same. So if the energy cap's £1,000 a year, which you can't go above, then EDF would say 950 for the year, and so on and so forth. So that's the way the cartel certainly goes on and on and on. But then you find that when they set their price, the money they get, they don't spend actually giving themselves huge salaries. For example, British Gas CEO got a salary of £2 million last year, and the other one who runs EDF is the one which I've got. She's got £1 million and so forth and so on. So I am very, very wary about them. And when I once actually tried to write an article about the whole cartel, I started off the article as Ian Conn was the CEO of British Gas. And I started the article saying, "Be appropriately named Mr. Conn," right? And he threatened to sue me. And I said, I wouldn't do that if I were you, Mr. Conn. He said, "Why is that?" I said, "Well, people don't know, but I'm telling you now, I work for the Financial Times. You wouldn't like to be in the Financial Times, would you?" And he went, "No. So that's him sorted. Now, ADHD, which I've got at the moment, I've done a sort of ballet de deux for years. I set because I live in a small house and my demands on gas and water is very, very low. So I said to them, I'm going to have a tariff of £200 a month. Okay. And then what happens next? Yeah. And eventually it turns out that EDF was setting their tariffs, their tariff as about, what was their tariff? It was less than £200 anyway. It was 157. And I said, right, then I've been paying you 200 quid. Do you owe me money? Right? God, the money I have is like drawing teeth getting money of that lot. It really is. I mean, it's crazy. So then we come to the present day, right? And I just got a letter from them. Well, what happened before, when my smart meter said, for the 6 months we're talking about, smart meter said that your joint gas and electricity charge was £500. And I said, but you just sent me a bill for 641 bill. Said, oh, have we? Yeah, so I want the money back. And now, this is back in the day, and now, this week, I just received a letter from, "Hello, Mr. Stewart Dalby. Hello, you bloody cheat. Your electricity and gas bill, your monthly payments are staying the same. I should hope so." Right, now listen to this, right. This bill replaces your bill dated on March the 6th, right. For Friday, December 2022 to March 2023, 88 days, my bill was 775.92 in debit. Next line down, as I recall, you paid us one payment of 775.92 plus 92. That means you owe me money. Well, why? You just said to me my balance was this, and I've paid it, so I need to refund. Oh yes, here we are. Please see your payment history for most information. And then there's a figure there saying refunds 201.00. Well, I've never had that money. I think they've given themselves given themselves a right. And it says your charges for this period, including which period is this? It's that is 936.98. And I said, how'd you get that? We've only had a new payment thing from March. Oh, about your payments. Your annual billing period is 1st of July 1922, but they've already taken that, haven't you, right, to 30th of June 1923. So they've already had that bloody. No, anyway, look, we've completed a review and calculated your direct debit for the year ahead. The review showed there's an outstanding amount of 957.98 that is now due. And I said, how can I've only made one payment. Please note that outstanding balance would need to be paid off before you'd be able to change supplier. Ha 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 ha. I've got my nose on my finger on my nose and been on my ha 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 ha. I can go to change my supplier anytime I want, old man. Right, so there we are. The situation is I owe you 957.98, which I'm never going to pay unless you pay me what's up returns. How do you get to these figures? I'm a reasonably intelligent man, but you've got me tied in knots on this one, really. I'm beginning to actually judge my sanity. Your new account balance, 957.98. Well, only it can't be right. Oh, instant. Also, while I've got you, I hope the waiting time on your telephone calls is outrageous. You're only outpaced by the Lewis District Council in waiting times.
But Stewart, does it not amuse you that all these things are put forward as being new innovations that are going to save us something? Yeah, but they never do. They just complicate things to the point where you haven't a clue. As you say, you haven't a clue what the hell they're talking about. Yeah, but I don't think that they know what they're talking about.
Well, I think a lot of people don't know that. The smart meters, for example, are supposed to talk about energy use, but there is also a cost they've had, which is a standing order to pay off the men who go illegally put in people's houses, and it gives the time, but go out and have a beer or whatever it is, and then so therefore the bill gets him rather inflated, and therefore you get back to it. What? Where do they get this 957 from? It's just a guess, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's just absolutely an estimate, because that's what it was last year. Therefore, it must be the same as last year. But of course, supposing I pulled the plug on the phone and we haven't got one anymore.
Yes, I mean, tell me this. I mean, it is slightly off energy matters, but I think that the cartels are all in it the same. Is they manufacture extra payments. For instance, I just ended my contract with Sky.
Yeah,
they've charged me 30 quid to renew. In other words, just to carry on. Now, what's that all about? £30 to renew a contract with them. I mean, and I say to them, look, this is going to go out on television, and they don't care.
Yeah, no, they don't care.
And basically because they don't understand.
My dear, they like to put a little bit of extra on, just for good luck.
Yeah. Well, we were a bit short this week. The auditor said we were a bit short this week, so we'll ding you for it. Yeah. But Stuart, what's the trend in energy bills? Because this morning we ran a front page story. I think it was from the FT, but or the Times, that the global economy is still in poor shape, but that the UK is going to be a 0.03 backwards in the coming year of GDP growth, and that we are going to be the lowest in the G7, and that our government is struggling to get inflation down under 10%.
Yeah.
Now what effect is that going to have on energy?
Not much. You see, what's happened in energy is that, as in a sainted newspaper called the Financial Times, which is wonderful, incidentally, and that's a good pension. And it turns out that the gas price is its lowest ebb for 18 months. Okay?
Yeah.
It's really gone down. That means the cartel can buy gas at wholesale for absolutely bugger all. And that means that they can actually reduce the retail price. So it's gone down from Mrs. Trust and Hunt's. She set the ridiculous level of 3,500, then Hunt put it up to 3,000. And then he decided he was going to help the businesses rather than the domestics. But now, the 3,000 has just been forgotten because it's ridiculous. So the average price now is just about 2,130 because of the gas. It's all about the gas price.
Right.
So it's going to go down. It's going down. It could go even further down.
Yeah.
That means we're going to get very we're going to get very, very poor service. Right. I have to hit my little big toes over.
Yeah, but I mean, if people out there, they just hear the words inflation and so on and so forth. But why is it that the energy sector isn't as hit by inflationary factors as other areas in our economy?
Well, it has been.
Yeah,
it has been, but now their major product, which is gas, has actually saved their bacon, hasn't it? Really?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, pointing the finger at Mr. Putin for all our ills is not on anymore.
Well, I don't know. Was he in lock and chain yet? Or not?
I don't know.
Or was he in the asylum? Which is which?
What I find unusual is, apart from the main story about Ukraine this morning, was that their foreign minister has objected to Wimbledon allowing Russian tennis players.
Quite right too.
Well, it's right or wrong is I mean, that's the main Ukrainian story. It all seems to have gone very quiet.
Yeah, but all those Ukrainians or whatever it is going to Wimbledon, blimey, they'll eat all the bloody cream and strawberries and cream, and we can't have that. Because you know what the Russians are like, they'll eat anything.
Absolutely. But I mean, quite seriously, is the war in Ukraine does seem. I haven't seen sort of daily bulletins or any mention of Putin, any mention of Zelensky, for that matter. Is why do wars? I mean, you're a former war correspondent. Why do they go quiet like this?
Well, we've explained this before, that I think that the Ukraine is going to be like Korea, because it was never declared the end of the war.
Right.
So you had North Korea and South Korea. So the war was over, but it was never declared as war. And therefore, the South Vietnamese and then to cut away short, right, the North Korean has a basic army, okay? South Korea has a go and so forth and so on. So what we're going to get is the same as Korea. We're going to get not an end to the war, but a continuing terrorist war, not an actual, tanks and all war.
Yeah, right.
Are you with me?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's what's going to happen in Ukraine. It's going to go on and on and on. Like the IRA, it's going to go on and on and on until they get what they want. Yeah.
Now, apart from the president of North Korea letting off a few rockets into the Japanese Sea once in a while, it's not a great deal happens in that theatre. Are we going to find the same with Ukraine? Things will settle back. You will still be able to go to the Black Sea and toast your toes on the beach.
I would think so. I mean, what Putin is sort of doing things, isn't he? Disarming the poisonous stuff.
Well, that's the point. I hear things and then I see a statement from it. It's bellicose again. So I can't figure out head or tail.
Well, it's very much like the IRA, isn't it? Really, that 1 minute they're doing this, next minute they're doing that. But basically, a terrorism will go on and on. I think in Ukraine. Yeah. And I think it will be a little bit like Northern Ireland now, isn't it?
Yeah, well, because there's a resurgence of that with Biden coming in. Yeah. Should I tell anybody who's interested in that he is a well-known author of a novel called The Friends of Rathlin Island? If you can buy it, well, you can get it on Amazon, can't you? Yeah. If you buy it, it's a bloody good read, and it takes place in the 1970s. During the height of the terrorist activity.
Yeah.
And it is rather funny, you know, because suddenly there is a slight resurgence and people have forgotten what it was like in 1970 and 1980. And people say, can there be a return of terrorism? And my answer is, I don't think that the young people in Northern Ireland will permit that to return because they've got used to the good life.
The Catholics have. But you've seen all the stuff now about the Protestants, that all these young kids, Protestants, kids, you know, and UDA and UFF are recruiting young kids.
Oh, are they?
To do very nasty things.
Right.
Yes, it was a big.
So it's the loyalists, so-called, who are going to...
The loyalists are conducting a terrorist wave by giving young kids, take that and go and plant that in. From Sandy Row, and these kids are really captive, basically.
Oh, really?
It's really going on. The Protestant militias are very active now, and it's like the county lines here.
Yes.
You know, it's like, you know, using kids to actually get the deposits.
You see, it's call me fuddy-duddy and call me Luddite and so on and so forth, but I do worry about the state of our national press, and I don't wish to sit here as a former journalist and criticise those who are coming afterwards. But I don't see any of this reflected in any of the major newspapers. Do you?
Oh, I think the Financial Times has written quite extensively about it.
Yeah, but
you see,
not the biggest red newspaper. Despite the fact that it's quality, it's not the biggest red newspaper.
It's not, because, you know, they're all chavs, aren't they? You know, it's not a newspaper for chavs. But definitely not. No, you've got to be able to read, apart from it. Oh, look what they're saying there, Nelly. What does that mean?
Yeah, but by the time the wokes have finished with it, who knows what the hell it means? But I mean, it does disturb me that you're able on Mirador Television. We are able to sit here and have this discussion, and you're telling me stuff that I didn't know. And I don't follow Northern Ireland as closely as I mean, I think I don't have a car anymore, but until I got rid of the car, as I did check under the underneath. Well, I mean, the terrorists, whether they be of the right or the left, let's call it that way, have very long memories. They remember you, they remember me. We're in their folders as not being terribly friendly to them. You never know what they might pop up to decide to do. Who is our friend down in
Dublin?
Sorry?
Dublin.
No, there was an MP here who was a great proponent of Northern Ireland, and he lived in sort of Hailsham, I think it was, and they got to him. They blew him up.
Who was he called?
I've forgotten his name now.
Oh.
We both knew him. He was a rotund little man.
Tufton Buffler?
No. He was an MP.
Tim Rathbone? Tim Rathbone.
No, not Tim. No. Tim wasn't a great proponent of Northern Ireland.
He wasn't a great proponent of anything.
No, right.
Apart from his drinks.
He's a very civilised man to have a meal with.
I'm sure he is.
He's been dead some years now too.
Yeah.
But it does bother me that this sort of news, which is close to home, and let's face it, if there is a resurgence of real violence in Northern Ireland, that's going to affect us over here. And yet nobody is keeping an eye on it. Nobody is saying, hey, guess what?
People don't understand Northern Ireland. I've always said to people, to understand sectarianism in Northern Ireland, you have to go there.
Yes, I agree with you.
You have to feel it, you have to examine it and so forth.
Yeah.
I used to be, because I am a Celt, I'm half Irish, you know, I was able to talk to Jerry Adams and to Andy Terry in the same bloke. I could talk to then who was that awful man who was Secretary of State from up north. He was, I can't remember his name. Tim something. No, you know, he was a very rough and tough guy.
Yes, I do. I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
The chap who was shop steward for the waiters on the line.
So I thought like in one day I could interview the commanding officer in the British Army, the Secretary of State for Jerry Adams, and the other lot, and one of the Paisley boys. You know, and because they tell you everything, and it's not like being in Vietnam because you've got the same language, but you sort of got the same language. But you could, do you remember when Jerry Adams was being interviewed? It was over Christmas, and he says, "Hoppy Cosmos, Hoppy Cosmos."
Well, you'll remember, and people don't believe this, but you'll remember the Duke of York pub.
Yes, I do.
And that in the very early days, there was a bartender who would shuffle up and serve you and not say a word, and it was Jerry Adams before he was adopted by the IRA and
the hotel there. What was it called? You know the name of the guy.
Europa.
Europa. Yeah. It was opposite the bar, which was
the Crown Hotel. Crown Bar. Yeah.
And it was 28 times, wasn't it?
Yes, that's right. Yes.
And I remember then.
Harper Brown is whom you're talking about.
Harper Brown. And once I was there watching on on a trip. Actually, I was standing there outside, and I was coming down to go to lunch, and Elton John opened the door and said, "Hello, do you know what the time is?" I said, "Oh yeah, it's 8,000." He said, "Thanks very much." So I went out and I told everybody I've just interviewed Elton John.
Actually, it was a strange situation where you could rub shoulders with the rich and the famous in Northern Ireland because they all came over as a show of solidarity to appear in either. I forgot what the name of the main nightclub was. But there was a sort of fairly famous nightclub that got all the headline acts there, wasn't there?
I don't remember that. Where was it? There was a nice hotel called Sordesta, something like that, going up the way. But when I was there, you couldn't go anywhere. There was only one restaurant called Chimes.
Oh, I don't remember Chimes. I remember the Golden Steer. If the Golden Steer had been bombed and the Europa had been bombed, there was nowhere. You had to go out to Crawfordsburg.
Well, I remember the Royal
Avenue.
What was the name of the hotel in the Royal Avenue? It was the Royal Avenue. Every Friday, I think it was, the army had a tiffin, what they called a tiffin down there, and they bunged out a couple of authors, and one week it was Colonel Veer booking Trent. And I said to him, we were chatting to him, he said, "Oh, I don't like to come here, driving up here because..."
I should move back in somewhere. Yeah. No, stay where you are. Stay where you are.
I said, I don't like to drive up because I'm a bit frightened of being at the roadblock, being called a soldier. But I don't look like a soldier. I said, "No." He said, if you don't mind me saying so, you look like a beggar. That was actually on the same day that another of my schools, I was in Sligo when Mountbatten was shot. That was a real old school.
Yeah, absolutely. But it does worry me that these things are filtered. And we started off by talking about the Ukrainian war, you would think there would be some definitive articles about what the hell's happening, but they're not. Nothing at all. It's almost as if the thing didn't exist, and you'll notice that.
Yeah, but what you've got to understand is the nature. Look, when we were in Vietnam, it was like the 19th century gentleman journalist. Take this to the post office, right? So you were writing a draft, you were writing an article. Now, with the internet and social media, it's sound bites.
Yes, that's right.
Sound bites. There's no analysis goes on.
No.
You look at one. Who was it? John Fair's, one of the Johns anyway. He was in Libya, and he said, "Oh, there's a tank. Oh, there's another tank. Back to you in the studio, John." And unfortunately, that's what it's about. And all these so-called war correspondents haven't got a bleeding clue how to sort of.
That's right.
Oh no, there are Jeremy Bowen exception. He's a very good person.
We are doing generalities. There are some good reporters left, of course there are, but they are in the minority as opposed to in our day. Most people that we worked with, we had some respect for. Yeah. But anyway, I don't notice any more sort of prominent Ukrainian flags all over the place in the town.
No,
People
I
lose
noticed
interest.
that. I noticed that. Yeah. That's a very good, interesting thing, because when the IRA were doing bombs in London, one in Camden Hill, people have a short, because they can't do it every day. They can't. They have a short sort of what's the word? Short sort of
Attention,
or
yeah,
to be on alert.
Yeah,
they can't go on looking under their car for years and years.
No.
Which is a good point, isn't it?
Yes,
really?
it is.
Yeah.
The other thing which is I value your comment on yesterday. There was a story. Some government figure was saying, "Oh gosh, guess what? Out of all these Ukrainian people that have come in, there are 9 convicted criminals." Well, is now going back. You see that to me, they don't learn from the past. Going back to 1950 something, if you recall the Hungarian Revolution, and the first people out, because they opened up all the doors of the prisons. The first people out and here were the criminals, because they knew how to do it. They knew how to get here, and that's not changed. The same thing happened in Vancouver at the time of the Red Revolution. It's all the criminals who actually hopped on board and got the largesse.
It's the same here, isn't it? The prison at the top there. When the British Arms was near the pub, and Kevin, when he was alive, somebody who came in here, he would know them immediately.
Yes.
Oh, do you want a pub? Oh, God, I want a pint. And the rest of us actually tiptoe out in case we got arrested.
How are we doing on time here?
Well, 10 o'clock now, man.
Is it 10 o'clock, right? And you're expecting somebody at 10 o'clock?
Yeah, but you let us down last week. You might be the same.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what we'll do is we will take another 10-minute break,
Okay.
and we'll see what's going on. Don't move for a moment, because actually somebody said, they like watching you, but they see your backside a bit too soon after the thing
really?
is.
Well, if they're interested in my backside, must be something wrong.
Right. Okay. So Toodlepip for the moment. We'll be back in about 10 minutes. It's just coming up to 10 o'clock. We'll be back, say, at 10:15. Okay. Until then, Toodlepip. Say Toodlepip.
Toodlepip.